Today, we're going to explore a pretty radical new design for civilization. One that's not built on belief or ideology or what we all agree on, but on a fundamental, verifiable law of physics. Yeah, you heard that right. We're talking about the Extropy Engine. Think about it for a second. Our laws, our economies, our nations, really everything we've built as a society rests on a foundation of shared fictions. There's stories that we all agree to believe in, and, they work for a while. But here's the catch. They are inherently fragile. So that begs a pretty huge question, right? What if we could swap out that fragile foundation of consensus for something real, something we can actually measure? What would a society even look like if it were built not on stories, but on the bedrock of physical truth? To even begin to answer that, we've got to go deep, like really deep. We need to understand the most fundamental conflict in the entire universe. And no, it's not good versus evil. It's a physical law that governs everything from dying stars to living cells. It's the battle between order and chaos. In physics, this is the law of entropy. On one side, you've got chaos, or high entropy. This is basically the universe's default setting, everything just relentlessly marching towards decay and disorder. But on the other side, you have order, or low entropy. This is the fragile, totally improbable emergence of things like life and consciousness and complexity. Every single living thing is basically a temporary victory against that chaos. Now, here's where it gets really interesting. This exact same law, it applies to our civilizations too. Our societies can either move towards order and coherence, or they can slide back into decay and disorder. And let's be honest, you can feel it, can't you? The signs of high societal entropy, they're pretty much everywhere right now. This quote just nails the core problem. Our information systems, the nervous system of our entire society, are basically breaking down. When contradictions aren't just tolerated but are actively rewarded by the system, well, that's a giant red flag that our collective ability to make sense of the world is in a state of high entropy. And this isn't just abstract theory, you see it in really tangible ways. You get epistemic fragmentation, which is just a fancy way of saying our shared reality is shattering, and we can't even agree on basic facts anymore. You get algorithmic manipulation, where our tech is designed to capture our minds, not free them. Our institutions start to decay because trust just evaporates. And this leads us down two pretty grim paths. Civilizational heat death, where we all stagnate into one fragile, unified blob, or the great rupture, where we just tear ourselves apart. Both are just symptoms of a system losing its fight against chaos. Okay, so if the problem is rooted in a fundamental law of physics, then maybe the solution has to be too. And this brings us to the absolute core proposal of the Extropy Engine, a totally new currency for civilization. Not money, not power, but truth itself. Look, the key insight here is that we can't just keep patching up our broken, story-based systems. It's not working. We have to change the very metric of what we as a society consider value. We need to stop rewarding the noise, the contradictions, the chaos, and start rewarding clarity, coherence, and order. And this is the heart of the idea. A new unit of value called Extropy, or XP. It's not based on hype or speculation. It is a direct physical measurement of a reduction in chaos. I know the formula looks a little intense, but the concept is actually pretty simple. Value gets created anytime someone adds a piece of information that makes the entire system more coherent, more orderly, and less chaotic. And this is the really revolutionary shift. It's about moving away from systems that require you to trust banks or governments or tech companies. Instead, we move to a system where value is mathematically proven and physically verified. It's a move from, please believe us it works, to, here, you can prove that it works. I know what you might be thinking. This all sounds great, very philosophical, but how on earth could you possibly measure something like societal chaos reduction on a global scale? Well, that's where the technology comes in. It's called the SignalFlow engine. The core piece of tech is called the SignalFlow validation mesh, and the goal here is absolutely massive, to create an architecture that can process and validate information on a planetary scale. The idea is to take the entire chaotic, noisy mess of the internet and turn it into a coherent signal for finding truth. So, how does it actually function? It's a surprisingly elegant four-step process. First, anyone can make a claim about reality, a statement of fact, a proposed solution, whatever.
Second, the network automatically checks that claim for coherence against every other verified piece of information in the system, basically asking, does this contradict anything we already know is true? Third, if it doesn't, the system measures exactly how much new order or clarity this claim brings to the whole picture. And finally, if it successfully reduces that chaos, boom, value is created in the form of Extropy. The real breakthrough here is that this whole process of verification becomes invisible and frictionless. A lot of decentralized systems have this huge problem of finding enough people to validate things. This system is designed so that literally billions of people can participate in the act of finding truth without even realizing they're doing it.
So let's just imagine for a second that a system like this actually worked. The implications would be, well, profound. This isn't just a new kind of internet we're talking about. It's the potential blueprint for an entirely new kind of society, a post-currency society. I mean, just imagine what you could build. You could have governance that can't be gamed by special interests because it's based on verifiable data. An economy that's anti-fragile, one that actually gets stronger from shocks, not weaker, because it's grounded in reality. You could have a society that's constantly self-improving because every action is optimized to reduce chaos and increase clarity. A world where truth is literally the only currency that matters. And what's so powerful about this vision is how it completely reframes your role as an individual. Right now, in today's high-entropy, attention-based systems, you are the product. Your attention is the target. In this new model, your role is simply to observe reality and report it accurately. You become the witness. And that very act of witnessing coherently becomes the engine that creates value for everyone. So let's bring this all home, because this leads us to the final and maybe the most important idea of all. This isn't really about technology in the end. It's about a fundamental choice for what humanity wants to be. When you zoom all the way out, you realize that life itself, and especially human consciousness, is a beautiful and strange anomaly. In a universe that is relentlessly drifting towards chaos, we represent this tiny, fragile, but very real pocket of increasing order. Our entire existence is an act of pushing back against chaos. So ultimately, the Extropy Engine isn't being pitched as just another app or a clever platform. It's being presented as a fundamental change in our relationship with knowledge and with power. It's framed as an act of rebellion against all the systems that thrive on confusion and chaos. It is, quite literally, the architecture for a new kind of enlightenment. So, the blueprint for a civilization based on verifiable truth is on the table. The choice is ours. Do we continue to live inside our fragile, crumbling stories? Or do we become the architects of a world built on coherence? The architecture is here. The real question is, what are we going to build with it?